The next clip I'm going to show you is what happens when there is no will.
America must also face the rapidly growing threat from cyber attacks. Now, we know hackers steal people's identities and infiltrate private emails. We know foreign countries and companies swipe our corporate secrets. Now our enemies are also seeking the ability to sabotage our power grid, our financial institutions, our air traffic control systems.
As far as you know, who is leading the charge on cyber attacks against the U.S.?
The main one would be the Chinese. They're both the most persistent and the most effective.
Janet Napolitano said herself that her greatest fear is a cyber 9/11. She said that it's almost on a daily basis that the Chinese are trying to attack and hack into our computer systems.
And they're trying to hack in at every level.
Why?
There's no doubt they want to be in a position to be ultimately militarily more powerful than us, but right now to get more leverage with us.
Right. So in other words, if China wanted to go take over an entity, and we went to intervene, they could say, "Hey, guess what? We're going to turn off all the lights on the east coast of the United States."
That would be the implicit threat, or maybe the actual threat.
Okay. I have a trunk full of Mexicans, a trunk full of Chinese, and a trunk full of Islamic terrorists. What truck do you not want entering the United States?
Chinese.
We will continue to take direct action against those terrorists who pose the gravest threat to Americans. That's why my administration has worked tirelessly to guide our counterterrorism efforts. Throughout, we have kept Congress fully informed of our efforts.
Do you think President Obama believes that there are Chinese coming over the border through Mexico?
I don't know. I'm not certain that is what it means. I'm not certain how effective, how much we have to fear Chinese coming across the border.
In this part of the world, we don't have a lot of tourist attractions, but this is one of them. This is an emergency distress beacon. And most people find it curious that it's in 3 languages, English, Spanish, and Chinese. And since the last time we were out here, they've even been so nice as to add a 5-gallon bucket of water, courtesy of the United States government. There are 8 of them along the Texas border.
I have a question for you. Why do you think that sign should be down along the border in Texas? Written in English, written in Spanish, and in Chinese. The government made that, Congressman.
Our government?
Yes. You press a button if you have distress. Has anybody, I mean, you've been in Congress for 22 years, right?
Right.
Okay. Has anybody ever showed you that picture before?
No.
Nobody's ever,
no.
nobody's ever gone to one of your hearings and said, look at this picture.
No.
No. Marketing 101. Make your advertisements so that people are going to read them.
We know they're coming in here. We caught a hotspot group back out here, 16. Got 2 Asian girls, Chinese. They both spoke English. They both have paid $50,000 each to come in here. Okay. Oh yeah. Then we had, and in that same group, we had at least 3 or 4 Indians and a couple of Pakistanis. I think there was 1 Mexican in the group. That was it.
Am I wrong in saying that the president's #1 job is to keep Americans safe?
Yeah, everything else is secondary. That clearly, it's not even, it's the main, it's almost, to me it's the #1, 2, and 3. Everything else, no matter how important anything else is, health, education, none of that matters if we're dead.
How would you describe President Obama's attitude toward the war on terror?
I would say it's very schizophrenic, damaging, and it's very frustrating.
So in the months ahead, I will continue to engage Congress to ensure not only that our targeting, detention, and prosecution of terrorists remains consistent with our laws and system of checks and balances, but that our efforts are even more transparent to the American people and to the world. We cannot look back years from now and wonder why we did nothing in the face of real threats to our security and our economy.
Shortly after President Obama's State of the Union address, His administration allowed 2,000 of the most dangerous illegal aliens detained in U.S. prisons to be released into the general public. The White House blamed this on looming budget cuts that would not take effect for another 30 days. Janet Napolitano denies any involvement. I sent an email to the Department of Homeland Security in which I asked if the funding to detain 2,000 criminals was no longer available, why not release Americans whose sentences were coming to a close in the near future? I did not receive a reply. As of April 2013, the whereabouts and names of the released criminals remain classified.
4 أرطال من الأنثراكس، 4 أرطال، جنطة هالكبرها، يشيلها واحد فدائي ويدخلها من أنفاق مكسيكو إلى الولايات المتحدة كفيلة بقتل 330,000 أمريكي في ساعة واحدة. يعني 11 سبتمبر تطلع زلاطة عند الموضوع هذا. ما في داعي طيارات وشكبانات ومواعيد وقصة من المؤامرات والتوقيتات. واحد عنده من المسالة اللي يدخل معه 4 أرطال من الأنثراكس وكنت عليهم النون هذا، صح ولا لا؟ تصير المسألة طماشة هناك.
Congressman, can I interrupt for 30 seconds? When you got to Steve King from New York, Congressman King, I'm thinking, where are the barf bags?
I'm not a congressman, though. I don't know if you know that.
Congressman Steve King.
Yeah. Peter King. Yeah, no.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
In my film, you will see how I demonstrate with make-believe anthrax on how easy it is to do what that lovely man just described. It's very easy. On September 11th, 2001, I watched that day like this. I saw people jump from 80 stories high. And I can tell you, they weren't thinking about the price of their home or their co-payment. They were thinking about the fact that they were never going to see their loved ones ever again. And as I stood there that day and actually tracked one body after the next falling, I kept on thinking to myself, what can they possibly be thinking? And I only come up with one answer, one word. They must have asked themselves, why? Why? Why am I in this situation that I have to do such a thing? And I have that same question today. Why? Why are we ignoring or pretending like this stuff isn't happening right now as we're sitting here? Because I can tell you from my experience, and it's firsthand, as we're sitting here tonight, hundreds of people have crossed over our border. And over 50% of them are OTM, which stands for Other Than Mexican. That's not based on just what I saw, although you'll definitely see in the films. I work alongside the Border Patrol and catch people from the Middle East. There's no question. I show you all the evidence that you need. There's no talking heads in this film. It's the real thing. Why? I can tell you, folks, and I'm not into conspiracies, and I'm not into fear factor. I'm just into giving it to you straight. Another 9/11 is not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And you'll also see in the film that I interview Mayor Rudy Giuliani, and I interviewed him in January of 2013. And he and I went back and forth about why there hasn't been another September 11. And he said, well, because it's too hard for them to replicate what it is the first time. They're going to want to do something grander and bigger. That's hard. I said, Rudy, you're wrong. They don't want to do something bigger. They realize they don't need airplanes anymore. They're either going to get us on the trains, or they're going to get us in little tiny attacks that hit us in the heart. You're going to see it happening in shopping malls, in the middle of small and big events. Huh. Well, with all humility, I know my stuff. Because it wasn't more than 2 months later, or 3 months later, that a young boy loses his life as he watches his father cross the Boston Marathon. And people lost their legs. And look what just happened in Kenya. Unfortunately, when it happens here in the US, and it will, the first person that's going to come to your mind is me. Because I guarantee you it's happening. You just gotta hope that it doesn't happen in Iowa, where you live. That's what we're down to. We're down to hoping that it doesn't happen. And this is gonna become the norm. Senator John McCain, it's really time for him to go. He was recently interviewed by a liberal magazine called The New Republic. I think it's The New Republic. And in the interview, they asked him how he would describe Fox News and their coverage of immigration reform. And he had the audacity to say, it's sort of schizophrenic, like it's a bad thing. Actually, I find that to be a good thing. Because Sean Hannity gave me my own hour special. I think you know where I stand on the issue. And he gave Marco Rubio his own hour special. So they're trying to be fair and balanced. Then Senator McCain went on to criticize me personally. Almost laughed at me and saying, this guy is worried about the Chinese coming through the border like they're going to come through the border to do a cyber attack. They could do a cyber attack from overseas. Okay. Well, here's what Senator McCain either ignores or is just too stupid to understand. First of all, how many people from China do you think are going to pay drug cartels $50,000 a head? So this way they can come here and pick your corn. Probably zero, right? Okay. Now, do I think that that girl necessarily is coming here tomorrow to stop all the air traffic control? No. But here's what I do know. Because that company that we talked about earlier that I had, it was a computer company. So let me tell you a story. What happened last year in Illinois. There was a Chinese lady who worked for Motorola. She was in the IT department. She took a leave of absence and went back to China so this way she could have a baby. While she went back to China, she failed to tell Motorola that she started working for a tech company in China that does work for the Chinese government and the Chinese military. When she came back to the US and went back to Motorola, she was there for a few days and then she gave her 2-week notice. And for those 2 weeks, she downloaded and downloaded and downloaded and downloaded sensitive, private, classified material from Motorola. She then went home, bought herself a one-way ticket to China, and took thousands upon thousands of dollars of cash that she had hidden under her bed, put it in a case, and went to the airport. Thank goodness she was caught before she got on that plane in the airport. So I go back to Senator McCain and my experience as the CEO of a technology company. I know it's easier to crack into a computer system when your boss hands you the password. And why that concerns me is because if we stay focused on that girl who paid the 50 grand, well, if she gets the amnesty that we're talking about here, and let's say, for instance, there's 20 million people. I'll cut it in half. It's not 11, it's not 40, it's 20. 25 million. Marco Rubio says they're all going to have background checks. You ask any police officer you know, and I'm saying that you know well, how long it would take them to do a background check on you? They would tell you it's going to take at least 2 days. How are we going to do background checks on 25 million people? Let me show you how. It's going to be this little rubber stamp that says approved, and it's going to be like this. And once that happens, that lovely girl from China is going to now have documentation to where she could legally go work for Motorola. That's what scares the living daylights out of me. But not Senator McCain. And I think, although Senator McCain did do his time in the service, perhaps it's my time standing at the bottom of the Twin Towers that makes me as concerned as I am. Folks, immigration law is designed for two things: to protect American workers from unfair foreign competition and to protect American lives. It's not happening. It's not happening at all. And, you know, when we talk about protecting American lives, I'm not just talking about you getting blown up or shot up. You saw in the clip, 2,500 illegal immigrants were released from jail because of the reason of sequester. 2 weeks ago, 3,000 illegal immigrants who were in jail for sex offense. 3,000 sexual predators were released into the general public 2 weeks ago. Because there's a law that says you can't keep somebody imprisoned indefinitely. And would you be surprised that Ireland doesn't want Jimmy O'Connor back because he committed a sex offense? So what happens? They're coming to Iowa. Now, there's a 13-year-old girl in Texas a month and a half ago who was raped by 10 men. They passed her around like she was a frisbee. All 10 of them were legal immigrants. And the news, they didn't even report it. And the ones who did put the blurb right underneath Tiger Woods' hole-in-one, they failed to say that they were illegal immigrants. Do you think those 10 guys are hiding in the shadows? I think that girl is hiding in the shadows now. And that's that she decides that she wants to even continue to live once the impact of what happened to her really, really sinks in. We are not protecting the American citizen. That's it. Bottom line, case closed. This problem, like all of the problems we have in this country, come down to one word. How many times have I said that tonight? It's the last time. One word: leadership. There is no leadership in this country. And to prove it, I'm going to show you the last clip of the evening. Now, I try to make this into a funny joke, but for some reason I'm not in a laughing matter right now. I don't know why. I'm very serious tonight. Barack Obama, we're not really sure what his nationality is. And Marco Rubio is Cuban. And Hillary Clinton is a white female. We think she's a female. But I'm certain the three of them were raised under the same roof by the same parents. I don't know how it happened, but I'm certain it did. And my proof is in this clip, because I think they've been fed the same BS their entire lives. And then at the end of the clip, you're going to see a guy who defines the word leadership. On a scale of 1 to 10 right now, 10 being good, 1 being bad.
The current border.
The current border is a what? Because I heard you tell Mike Brown upstairs, 6 out of 9 are secure.
Depends on which sector we're talking about.
No, as a whole.
Well, as a whole, that's one of the problems. We don't know.
Just give me 1 to 10, Marco. Come on, man to man.
I can't give you 1 to 10 because we don't know. That's the problem. We don't know.
I know, Marco. It's bad, man. It's bad. It's a 1.
Okay.
And the only sector that's good is you.
I have to fix it.
All right, good answer. Way to duck it.
I can assure you that I certainly did not know anything about the IG report before the IG report had been leaked through the press.
I certainly did not know of any reports that contradicted the IC talking points at the time that Ambassador Rice went on the TV shows.
First, let me say I take full responsibility for my own actions and for those of my administration. As angry as I may be about activities undertaken without my knowledge, I am still accountable for those activities. As disappointed as I may be in some who serve me, I'm still the one who must answer the American people for this behavior. And as personally distasteful as I find secret bank accounts and diverted funds, one of the Navy would say, this happened on my watch.
I'm going to end on this, a couple other words, and if there are any questions, I'll feel free to stick around and answer them. There's a litmus test to all the senators and representatives who really want amnesty. I'll give you citizenship. I'll say, keep the borders wide open. Don't worry about ever chasing down anybody with a visa. In fact, don't even charge them a fine. The hell with the back taxes. I only want one thing in return in the bill. They can never, ever vote. You watch. They'll run like mice. That's the litmus test. We are now at a part in time in this country where politicians are more concerned with chasing after votes than they are protecting Americans. And I find our country in a time of great, great weakness. And the only way to reverse it is by implementing what I call tough love. It's sort of like what I do with my son. When my son turns around and says something to his mother the wrong way, I give him that look. And if it continues, I say, Dennis, and it ends. We've lost that as a nation. We've lost it. And I want to be very clear here tonight, especially the fact that I'm in a university. My message is not anti-immigrant. My message is pro-American. And